So thank you for joining in the mastermind today. And every day we're getting a happy act from our Live Happy group. And today is Learn Something New, which is very apropos for our mastermind. So I'm going to get right into it. And somebody asked me to post this again for gratitude. And it's a great piece of paper if you are practicing gratitude. It kind of is a great little blueprint of how to practice gratitude effectively, and probably will help you not only start your day out with gratitude, but then end your day with gratitude and happiness. And I think that you will find, if you want to start practicing gratitude, you'll find that this little exercise is not only great for yourself, but it's actually great for your family to do as well. And sometimes can, I think most times can change the trajectory of how you feel and what you do and how you communicate with others. This is something that I've posted before, but I thought it would work today. You can't look at the competition and say you're going to do it better. You have to look at the competition and say you're going to do it differently. And I think what's really a big deal about anybody that's in business today, one of the things that can change your maybe success is by having your differentials in business. I think your uniqueness is what, opens you up to a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. And I have some examples of that in a second. So today we're going to talk about effective communication. It's been on my mind for a while, and we've actually talked about this book that I read before, but Robert's rereading it, and it kind of sparked me to want to reread it and go through it. And so I found some of the stuff on the internet with the book, and I'll share it with you in a second, but I want to start it by a story. Last night I had a few people over because I'm doing an event at my house for the charity that I work with called Sir Optimus, which is a charity that helps women and girls all over the world. And we're doing a wine event for our sponsors for this sip and stroll that we're doing all through the mall for tasting wine, helping the vendors and music and all this stuff. So the sponsor dinner is at our house. And one of the ladies that was here has actually been the president of International Sir Optimus. So she represented the entire world in terms of this particular charity. And she lives here, and she owns the Acura dealership here in town. And she was talking to me about the fact that, one of her sales managers was saying that, new car sales are down everywhere. And he felt very discouraged about the view of where car sales were going to go. And she was surprised by this because he's the sales manager, and he's the person that, has to drive encouragement to his sales force. And so she was a little, she was talking about that. And I said, well, gosh, has he ever read, Raving Fans, or has he talked to his sales people about, communication, and have you guys, ever read any John Maxwell and things like that? And she was like, no, but I'm thirsty for it. And I was talking to her about Alex and positivity and all this stuff. So it reminded me that, no matter what industry you're in, what you do, people all kind of go through the same type of thing where discouragement comes in. They're not quite sure how to communicate with people that they've been communicating with for years. They may have gone into their cold market, because everybody in sales always starts with their family, the friends, people they know, love, and trust. And so it was just interesting, because she was the owner of this car dealership. She's been in this town for over 30 years, one of the most successful women I know. And, she was struggling with how to help her sales force. So I shared this book with her, The 7 Levels of Communication. And I said, maybe, read the book. See, I shared Sean Aker with her. I shared a lot of different people. I said, read the book, because I think a lot of people in sales forget about how to communicate with their warm market, because they feel like, oh, I've been there, I've done that. And and I just can't do it anymore. And I think I suffer from that too. But when I read this book, I felt so encouraged, because it wasn't really about my warm market not working with me or working with me. It was more about going deeper in my connections with my warm market, in terms of going into their referrals and seeing who was interested in referring to me. So the 7 levels of communication kind of looks like this. At the very bottom of the pyramid is advertising, direct mail, electronic communication, and then here's where it gets where I live: handwritten notes, phone calls, events and seminars, and one-on-one meetings. Those 4 pillars right there is where I live. That's the place that I want to, not only do I want to go deeper in my connections, but I want to find out who's my center of influence and who are my influencers that can influence people to want to do business with me. And so I thought I'd take some excerpts of the book and try to walk us through some of the key things on how to structure communication with the people that we know. So this particular book talks about putting people into groups in your database. So we all have Go Prospect, or you might have a different CRM. And what you look at is your friends, your associates, your business people that you've known along the way, some people that you communicate with very rarely, some people that you communicate more often, and you put them in groupings in your database based on how often you should be talking to them. You can actually calendar that into your David Bird planner. So the A pluses are your ambassadors. They refer you multiple times a year. They're people that are really your cheerleaders. They're the ones who know you, they trust you, they love you. The first, if anyone's looking for something that you're doing, they're the ones who are championing your cause. And they're the people that you definitely, want to stay in touch with multiple times, and make a habit of getting together and connecting. And you're not connecting necessarily on a business level. You're connecting on more of a level of, making sure that you're on the forefront of each other's mind, because if they're helping you refer, you definitely want to be able to help them refer. And then you have your champions. They may refer you occasionally, but you want to stay in touch with them. And so you want to calendar those people, maybe every couple of months or maybe once a year, whatever it is. You're going to look at those people and say, what do you, and by the way, those people, your champions, they will turn into your ambassadors. Okay. Your Bs are your potential champions. So those are people that, maybe more of your, people that are just sort of acquaintances in your life and that you've run into or you run into. And that happens to me a lot when I am maybe at a restaurant and I run into somebody and I think to myself, God, I wish I had more time with that person, or I wish I lived closer to that person or something, because I really like them and I don't. So those are people that you definitely want to put into your calendar to connect. And actually the goal with everybody that you're connecting with is to try and see how you can go deeper to make them your champions or your ambassadors. Okay. Your C's are usually friends and family. You like them. They don't send you business. So here's the thing. We all know that friends and family, either they are with you or they're not with you. They love you, but for some reason, whatever it is you're doing, they're not wanting to support it. That's not an uncommon thing. And it's not because they don't love you. It's just, maybe it's just because they don't understand what you're doing or whatever. But, it is common. I just want you to know that. The Ds have never sent you business and they're never going to. So those are the people maybe in Facebook that you've friended or that you really don't know how you know them and you don't have really any connection to them. And you may be able to start some sort of a dialogue with them, but really and truthfully, that's not where you want to spend your time. You want to spend your time with people that you definitely know there's some sort of a connection and that you can actually go deeper into those communications. So you want to take those relationships to referrals. And one of the things that I loved about this book is that it kind of gives you kind of a step-by-step easy way to work that into your life. So I'm not going to read these to you, but you can take a screenshot or you can actually get the book. It's like a storybook, but it's a kind of a textbook of information. And so I really loved it because I really like going deeper in my relationships. And I think that it's hard because we're all running from here to there. It's a challenge to be able to really, I've been trying to get together with a old childhood friend of mine that I've known since I was 6 years old, who lives in Woodland Hills. And it's been a couple years that we've literally made appointments with each other just to meet for lunch in the Valley. And for whatever reason, it never seems to happen. And I don't know why. She doesn't know why. And literally we want to get together, but somehow or another it just has not happened. So these are ways to kind of, take your relationships, go a little bit deeper in your communications. And I like this one, where you should spend your time and money. So a lot of people, want to do different things. But what we know is that if you spend your time, your energy and effort and money on people you actually know, like, and trust, and you are consistent with it, that's where you're going to get your leads. That's where you're going to get your deeper connection. And those relationships are going to pay off. And, think about the people that have sold you something in the last 6 months, or have referred you something. This is a very key component to what you expect out of other people. How you behave towards them is kind of what you should expect back. Okay, so I really think that if you're taking a screenshot of this, this is kind of stuff that you can read and you can understand that it applies to every industry. This happens to be a book from a realtor point of view that I read a couple of years ago. And I think it relates to exactly what we do here on a very big level. Successful success stories. So one of the things I think is really unbelievable about this mastermind is that we hear stories that we can utilize and tell to other people. And, this is an exercise here that says, when was the last time you made something good happen for a client? So the homework was write 12 success stories. And it gives you an example of how to do that. But I oftentimes will take a success story that is really powerful, and I've done it here on the mastermind, and share that with another person. And in fact, Randy is a perfect example on the EHT. There are many, many, many times, more than I can remember, that when I'm talking to people about EHT, that I bring up Randy's story. And it's not really my story to tell, but it's such a compelling story that people are just so intrigued by it. And oftentimes it takes them to the next step of wanting to see more information about EHT. So if you can utilize the stories and really come up with stories on how you may have changed somebody's life, or how somebody may have changed your life, and really utilize those stories with other people that you come in contact with, it's very, very impactful. Testimonials, the reasons why people may have utilized your products before, and really share those with people. That's incredible marketing, okay? So here's relationship to referral, and it's a script. And basically you can apply it to anything. So it's basically, hey, Randy, I know how important your time is these days. I'm looking to grow my business, and I want to grow my business with great people like you. Something I found is that great people tend to know great people. So with that in mind, out of all the people you know, who is the next person you know who will be buying or selling or investing in real estate? So again, you can change that up to anything. Who's the next person that you might know that might be interested in buying a car? And I was telling my friend Sherry that last night. Who is the next person that you know that might be interested in some health and wellness products, or taking care of their skin a little bit better, or maybe is interested in having a side gig business? I know that you know a lot of influential people, and after you ask them the question, don't say another word. Let them actually answer. Listen to what they have to say. And even if there's silence, that just means they're thinking about what you said. And the key to this whole exercise is to be quiet after you ask the question. Let them really think about it, and let your friends help you to build your business, right? Because I always ask people, at least twice, 3 times a day when I'm talking to people. I always say, if you could tell me anything about how I could refer you business the best way, what would that be? What do you do that I need to tell my friends and family about that's unique to your business that would really help them? And, like an insurance guy told me yesterday, he said, well, by and large, if you get them to me, I think I can get them anywhere from 10 to 20% cheaper insurance. And I said, well, how do you do that? And he said, well, I have a company that and their underwriting that's very, very competitive. And we focus in on this. And he told me all the reasons why I should refer people to him to get a better rate on their insurance. It's the same principle in anything that you do when you're involved with sales, and you're talking to people. That is how you get people thinking about how they can refer you business. So here's the communication plan. So your ambassadors, they deserve the most communication. If you call them once a month, we call it, an hour of power where you're actually making calls. And you're actually talking to people face to face, which is more impactful than anything. Your champions are people that you connect with 4 times a year. You can do that by using your Go Prospect, or if you have a different CRM. But you want to decide how you want to communicate with your people, and then calendar it. So if you know that you have 100 people on your list, and 10 of them are ambassadors, people that you want to connect with once a month, you could actually make a day of 2 hours in a day every month to connect with those 10 people. But you put it on your calendar and you actually make those calls. And that is how you stay connected on a very, on a plan that's a very big, an incredible business plan. Okay. So if you're deciding that you want to follow those up with emails or with text messaging or whatever, you calendar those events and those people. So it's all about making your list. Warm market is great. That's where we're focused, and really teach those warm market people how to help you with your business. Okay. Handwritten notes. I've told you before, you guys, I love Power Notes. I think they're the greatest thing ever. Power Notes are all about connecting on a personal level, not about business, not about, oh, thank you so much for thinking about using my services, or even if they're customers of yours, thank you so much for, using my skincare. Mostly it's about, it was great to talk to you. I loved hearing about your daughter who is running that new company that you shared with me. Boy, it was great to be able to catch up. I would love to be able to have a cup of coffee. I'll call you in a couple of days, and let's connect and grab a cup of coffee. And that's what a Power Note is about. It's never about business. It's always about connecting and going deeper. Okay. And the call to action is always at the end. I'd love to grab a cup of coffee with you. I will call you in 2 days. Or it would be so fun to play tennis. I will call you in a week and let's schedule it. So these are notes that you write to everybody. It is not just your top people, but if you meet somebody or they're your friends that you haven't seen in a while, or you just feel like writing, I like to write at least 5 Power Notes a week. And it gets challenging because sometimes you think, oh my God, who am I going to write to today? But, people really genuinely love getting a Power Note. It's a note in the mail, and nobody does that anymore. Events and meetings. Now, this is a huge, huge thing. So last night I had a meeting with 5 people for this thing. Now, none of those people, except for one, is in my business. And of those 5 people, that one person is in my business. She loves the products, but she doesn't build a business. But she is one of my brand partners, and she has been since day one. She was one of my 3. And I never discuss Nerium at a business meeting, ever. What I talk about is what I'm passionate about in my life and how I can help the cause. And out of that last night, we talked a lot about positivity, and people were like, well, how did this happen? How did it happen that you got all this information about positivity? How did it happen that your daughter, Alex, is studying that and she's gone on to write her book and do this whole thing? I said, oh, well, we went to a Nerium convention. "Oh, wow, you're kidding." And I said, "Yeah, they provide that for us for free. We actually, get these incredible speakers, and we go to a convention once a year, and this was introduced to us, I think 6 years ago, and it has really taken off in terms of, you know, learning something new, personal development." So that's how those things come up in conversation. It gives a lot of credibility to what I do, because it's very impressive to be able to tell the owner of an Acura dealership who's been in business for over 30 years, who's struggling with her sales force, that you might have the answer because of what you do. So I just tell you that by, really when you're networking with people, talk about the things that you know and love and the things that you're passionate about, not necessarily your business, because it'll come up, because this is where you get your information and this is what you practice. And of course, one-on-one meetings are always the most powerful. People want to see your passion. They want to feel your energy. And I think that, when you can meet with people face to face, you get to know them on a much deeper level. And of course, right after you meet them, of course, you want to follow up with a power note. You want to make sure that you keep that relationship going. This gentleman who wrote the book, he talks about, if you meet somebody one-on-one, go to the same place every time. Make a restaurant or a place that you want to meet your clients or your brand partners or anybody in your center of influence at the same place, and in the relationship of that place, become friends with the owner of the restaurant or the maitre d' there, or the service people. Tip them well, make sure that they know your name, make sure they come over to the table and say, "Oh, it's so nice to see you again, Annie Schwartz," because what that does to your clients is it basically says, this person is important to this restaurant, and they're known here. And I'll tell you, that happens to me all over my town, and I've done that my whole life, and it was a natural thing. I just wanted to know who the owners were, and I think I was here when most of these restaurants were being built, since I've lived here for about 28 years. And I have to say that, I have gotten friendly with all the owners of the nice restaurants around here, or the community restaurants, because I like walking in and them saying, "Hey, Annie, it's great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us." And then I can say, "Hey, this is my friend, Randy, and he's in from Las Vegas, and I told him you guys had the best bread." And, so it's a great thing to be able to make those connections. You can get a lot of respect from the people at those establishments, and they will help you in your relationships, and it'll be very impressive. Phone calls. So phone calls, again, is another way of connecting deeper. And if you can't get somebody on the phone, the next best thing, I think, is texting the message to them instead of leaving the message. I find that people don't even listen to their messages anymore. So texting a message, Robert and I have been texting out personal happy birthdays and things like that. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to do it. And it's great in our communication that we are able to do things like that. But this is basically, the idea behind any kind of a communication or any kind of a phone call, the idea behind it is really not about what you need. It's about how you can help somebody else. So when you're picking up the phone, if you're reluctant, typically the reason why you're reluctant is because you feel like you're selling something to somebody. But if you can take the philosophy of when you're picking up the phone, that you actually have the intention of connecting and perhaps providing service to somebody, or providing some sort of a way for somebody, it's a much easier way to make those types of phone calls. So the idea is, the more phone calls you make, the more connections that you make, the bigger the odds are that you're going to actually achieve whatever your goal is in terms of what you need, in terms of whether you're selling products, or you're bringing people into your business, or you're laying, the groundwork to build that connection so that they become a referral source to you. Here, this guy in the book, he says at least 4 hours per week are focused on phone calls to people in your database, those you've worked with in the past, networking contacts, friends, family, anybody you don't have to call but should. Does not include returning calls. So your power hour, if you can do a power hour once a day, or you decide it's going to happen all in one day. Today's Friday. I'm going to do all my power calls today, and call all the people that I want to call. That you get to schedule it any way that you want. But this is something that should be in your weekly life if you want to connect with people. And by the way, those calls can be about, inviting somebody to an event, having somebody try the product, having somebody, come to some sort of a training or see something, or maybe on a Zoom or a live video or whatever. But you can do those things in there as you're connecting with them, and as you're building your relationship, and as you're, following up and things like that. So, of course, following up, 44% of business professionals give up after one follow-up because they hear the word, no, I'm not interested. 80% of all sales require 5 to plus follow-ups: phone, email, cards, in-person engagement. So if you know statistically that everybody needs, forget about you. I didn't need that much follow-up when I got started with Nerium. It was easy for me, but there are many things that I need 5 or more follow-ups for. Okay. So on average, it's going to take 5 or more follow-ups for anybody to be interested in what it is you're doing. And it's not because they don't want to. Life happens, business happens, day-to-day happens, kids happen, illness happens, all sorts of stuff happens. And so in order for you to create enough value for somebody to stop and say, yes, I want to take a look at this, or yes, I can talk tomorrow. I mean, I've had somebody calling me for the last week saying, when can we talk? And I keep writing him every day saying, I am sorry that we haven't spoken yet. I've been so busy. And the only reason I can tell you why we haven't spoken is he hasn't created enough value yet for me to stop what I'm doing. So it's not personal. It's just that we're all doing stuff. Everybody's doing stuff. So nurtured leads produce on average a 20% increase in sales opportunity versus non-nurtured leads. So you got to keep nurturing, and you got to create value, and you got to make sure that people understand what you have to offer them and how it's going to help them. So the advantage of customer relationship management: gathering information about your prospects and customers, improving your customer support, making sure they're getting their products on time, looking at your inventory, tracking what you're doing, self-service, consistent marketing message. So I love the customer survey. I think it's a great way to call people and connect. And I always say to people when I do a survey, I feel so privileged that the company has asked me to survey for them. And I have just a few quick questions. Sometimes I limit it to 3 questions. Sometimes if I feel comfortable, I do as many questions as I can. But basically, it's, what do you like best about the products you use? How often would you like me to connect with you if I had a new product to share? Do you like a phone call, a text, or an email? How do you want me to communicate with you? Do you want to hear about the new products that we just launched? What about the discounts? Is this a product you would tell your friends about? Do you work full time? What do you do? What do you love to do? These are just examples. You can put any question in for any survey for anything that you're interested in knowing about. How does your day work? Are you retired? What do you do? What's your favorite hobby? If you could, if you take supplements, what's your favorite supplement and why? These are ways to engage and get information. So I shout out to you to practice your gratitude, educate yourself daily on your business, prospect every day, follow up every day, talk to as many people as you can, have fun with it, show up. And I promise that consistency, although it may not show up for you every day the way you want it to, it shows up and it surprises you when it does. And I think that's really a great part of all business. So as I have all week, I wanted to remind everybody about the Southern California and Northern California regionals this weekend. They are happening all over the United States, Canada, Mexico, and the world, basically. So if you have people that are that you think might be interested in something like this, please feel free to go into the back office or in on Facebook and find these types of flyers that you can share, with your brand partners or people that may have an interest. And then the market parties. Market parties are popping up everywhere. And this is very exciting because we need them. We need them to bring our people to and to be able to share a bigger message of what we've got here. So with that, you guys, I know we went a little longer, and I know that was quite a bit of content today, but I felt like it was important for all of us in communication. And I like to remind myself of why it's important to really plan out that communication. And we can talk about it more as we go along. And of course, if anybody has any sort of ideas on how they communicate or how they broadcast that communication, we're always interested in that because we're masterminds, and that's what we do. We share information to help each other grow. So I can open it up if anyone has anything to comment. I know we ran late, so I apologize, you guys. But I'm opening up to you if you have any questions or comments, or if you just want to get started with your weekend.
Before anyone else comments, I just want to say, Annie, for you to put together a presentation like this is an intense thing to do. I understand it. And I just want you to know how appreciative I am and my team is of you doing this every day. It's phenomenal, and I appreciate it. And today was very, very good. Thank you.
Oh, Randy, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Ditto, Randy. Susie, oh my goodness, the value that we have, Miriam family with Annie as our leader. She's so dedicated to us. She pours into us every single day, and then we can go pour into our teams. It's absolutely invaluable. Thank you, Annie, from the bottom of my heart as well.
Oh, thank you, Susie. Well, I just appreciate you and all your energy and all of you, because this is what makes this so special, that we have. So
it is very, very special. Unbelievable.
Annie, you're amazing. Thank you for really pouring your heart and your love into all of us. You have 3 amazing children, but you have a big, huge group of Miriam family, not group, your Miriam family, who just absolutely adore you. The amount of time and effort and thoughtfulness and intention you put into what you do every morning for us is just awesome. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you so much. You guys are so amazing. Okay, I am embarrassed now, so I'm going to have a good day.
Receive it, Annie. Receive it.
Thank you.
That's right. Drink it in.
Thank you. Thank you,
Annie.
Annie.
You deserve it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
great day.
Awesome.
Have a great weekend. Talk to you later.